So I was almost single and a widow on Valentine's Day. Story time. So it all started Sunday night while we were at a friend's house watching Super Bowl. We were all just having a good time, enjoying some good foods and drinks while enjoying the game. By the way, that Usher and Alicia Keys hug was everything. Back to the topic. So when we got back home that night, we were both complaining of our stomachs being bloated because we felt like we had too much to eat and drink that night, especially prior to the Super Bowl at our friend's place. 4 hours earlier, we actually had pizza, mud pizza to be more precise. So we thought that it had to do with the fact that we ate too much. So that night, I was okay. I said that maybe we just need to use the restroom and we are going to feel relief. That was the case for me, but not the case for him. So unfortunately, around 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, he was complaining of stabbing pain in his stomach. He felt like he was getting stabbed inside his stomach. So I asked him if I should take him to the ER that night, and he said no, he doesn't want us to wake up the kids and start dragging them that time of the night. So I decided to give him something to help with the pain. I believe it was Tylenol PM. So that was able to knock him out so he could go to sleep. And then he woke up in the morning and he was still in pain, but he said he was kind of okay. I saw him grab his car keys and I was like, where are you going to? He said he's going to work. And I said, you shouldn't be going to work. We should be preparing to go to the hospital or book some kind of appointment. But hey, man being man, he is very stubborn and hot-headed, okay? So he decided to go to work, and guess what? 4 hours later, he came back and he was looking worse. And I told him, aha, are you ready? Can we go to the ER now? And he said no, he took the rest of the day off and he also took Tuesday off. Mind you, he's a workaholic. So for him to take the day off means shit is getting real. So I asked him if he's been able to go to the restroom and he said no. That was becoming too alarming to me because he hasn't been able to go to the restroom since that Sunday, and this is Monday we're talking about. So he was able to go to bed that night, still in pain, and he had another medication to help him sleep through the night. And then that morning, I looked at him, he had a fever, and his stomach was huge. He looked like he was 9 months pregnant and in a lot of pain. That's when I told him, I'm not going to listen to you anymore. We're going to go to the ER now. And he was like, no, you know what? Let's just wait until the kids get back from school at 3 p.m. and then we shall go together. I was like, okay, no problem. So when I picked up the kids and we came back home, my mother-in-law was already there and she decided to take care of the kids so we can go to the ER. So I rushed him to the ER. So 5 minutes after we checked in at the ER, they decided to take his vital signs. That's when they saw that he had a very high fever, and worst of all, his heart rate was over the roof. They had a paramedic come in there and run some EKGs on him, and they did not like what they were seeing. And immediately they had to do an x-ray on him as well. They did an x-ray, they didn't like what they were seeing either. So a phlebotomist came by and drew some blood so they could take it to the lab. And then that's when the nurse started saying, hey, we need someone to make a room available as soon as possible for a patient. So all this was happening so fast. At this point, he could barely walk. So one of the nurses asked that he provides a urine sample. And the urine color that he produced actually was very unclear. It was more like dark red color, like it was mixed with blood. So obviously something was very wrong here. A few minutes later, the medical doctor came in and informed us that he has a condition called perforated diverticulitis. This is a condition where your large intestine has developed some pouches around them, and a lot of people have this without even knowing, and they get to live with it for a very long time as long as it is not infected or perforated, or worst case scenario, rupture, which also means perforation. Most of the time when these pouches become infected, it can be cured with oral antibiotics. But when it becomes ruptured or perforated, that's when it's a big deal. Unfortunately, in my husband's situation, it ruptured and fluid filled out his entire stomach and spread infection everywhere. So the doctor ordered the nurses start 2 IV lines in his arms, and they were running about 5 bags of fluids at the same time to start washing out that infection. So the doctor told us that he had informed the surgeon and he will be in our room shortly to talk to us about surgery. So the surgeon walked in about 20 minutes later and looked at me and said, are you the wife? And I said, yes. And he said, do you have kids? I said, yes. He said, well, you need to make some arrangements because you will not be going home tonight. So he shook my husband's hand and he said, have you ever had surgery? And he said, no. And he said, congratulations. This is going to be your first surgery and it's going to be a major one. So the surgeon began explaining what kind of surgery he's about to perform. He told us that he's going to have to do a big incision from his upper stomach all the way below his belly button, because that's the only way he can go in there and be able to clean out all the infection, or at least most of it, and wash everything out to the best of his ability. And he told us that he doesn't also know what he's going to encounter or see in there, but whatever he sees, he's going to do his best to try and fix it. He also told us that there's a possibility that he's going to have to wear a colostomy bag temporary for at least 6 months or more, and then come back for another second surgery in order to take it off and fix things in there. So he told us he was going to go in there and then cut the intestines that were perforated and try to fix it to the best of his ability. At this time, I saw fear and panic in my husband's eyes. I was there throughout. I was holding his hands and giving him kisses and telling him everything is going to be okay. So we got to the hospital around 5:20 p.m. on Tuesday evening, and he was already in the operation room by 8:15 p.m. and was undergoing surgery. The surgery took about 4 hours and some minutes. I was sitting in the waiting area and I kept getting text messages constantly from the nurses, how he is doing, and they were telling me that he's doing great, he's strong, he's a fighter. Around 12:18 a.m. in the morning, I saw the surgeon walking into the waiting room area where I was sitting. He was walking towards me. I was really nervous because God knows it was so many things running through my head. And he was looking at me and he smiled. That's when I had some peace and I was like, okay, maybe he has good news for me. So he walked up to me and he shook my hand and said, the first good news is that I didn't have to put in a colostomy bag in him. He said once he opened up my husband, he noticed that actually 2 intestines were perforated, not just 1. So he was able to cut them out and clean out as much as he can, clean out everything around the other organs that were infected. And that's when he made the decision whether or not to put in the colostomy bag. That was based on the fact that the other intestines were looking okay, they were healthy, they were not inflamed. So he thought it best to not, go with the colostomy bag. He was able to stitch everything up to the best of his ability. And he told me that it's not guaranteed or promised that, there might not be any perforations in the future, or if this is going to work all the way, but he did the best he could. I was so happy and grateful to even hear that he's alive. That's when the surgeon told me, you were right on time. Had it been 1 more day later, your husband would have died. So I'm sharing this story to bring awareness to this condition called diverticulitis. This is a condition that used to be very common amongst people ages 50 and above, but that is not the case anymore because even people in their 20s can have diverticulitis. I can't emphasize how important it is for everyone to do their annual checkups, regular checkups, because you never know. If your partner is as stubborn as mine and won't go to the hospital unless he is sick like a dog, please show him this video. This is very important, and this condition is very common in men, same as fibroids and cysts are very common in women. We were very grateful the surgeon didn't see any traces of colon cancer. So that was good news for us. We have just one life. Please do not take your health for granted. Always make sure you get checked up annually, biannually, anyhow you want it. But please do not hesitate to go to the hospital. Today is exactly 10 days post-surgery and he is recovering slowly but surely. He's on a very strict diet. He can only have liquids or mechanical soft foods at this time. I don't want this video to be extremely long, but I'm going to post a part 2 where I will show you the before and after surgery videos and pictures of everything that happened. So stay tuned. Bye for now. Remember, your health is your greatest wealth.